Welcome to my third video covering each subset of ZBLL. This subset doesn't have an official name as far as I know, so let's just call it T3. And essentially, if you have these two corners being opposite, and these two being the same, and of course you have this OLL, then one of these cases will be applicable. Here's the first case. You'd recognize it by having sort of most of this cube being solved, but only these two edges need to be swapped. And so if you have your back and left edges needing to be swapped, then this is the alg you'll do. Oops. Breaking it down, you would sort of take out this pair, do a U2, and then you'd sort of form this pair with an L prime, then insert into the back, and then reinsert this pair. So yeah, here it is one more time. That was a bit lucky. Let's try this a bit faster. The second case is the mirror of the last one. Essentially, once again, you do have most of the cube being solved, but instead of these two edges needing to be swapped, it's these two. So to put this into perspective, if I do a U2, you can see that it's the back and the right edges that need to be swapped rather than the back and the left. And so the alg would go like so. So you start the U2. Breaking it down, you would take out this pair like so, do a U2, then you can do an L to pair this pair, sort of. Insert, and then insert that last pair like so. So here it is a bit faster. That was a bit lucky. Let's try one more time. There we go. Here's the next case. Essentially, you have this bar on the right side, and then you sort of have these two edges needing to be swapped. So yeah, you have a bar, two swapped edges, and this is the alg you would do. Breaking it down, you'd sort of bring this pair up, do a D, and then R prime, E prime, R to sort of put this pair back, D prime, and then here, instead of doing an R2, you would cancel into this anti-soon. And so here it is slower, just kind of to see what I meant. So here it is a bit faster. This next case is the mirror of the last one. Here you have a bar, but the bar's on the left side, and these two edges need to be swapped. So instead of the front and left being swapped, like the last one, it's the front and the right. And so here you do a U prime, and the alg goes like this. And so breaking it down, it's just the mirror of the last one. So you start with the U prime. You take this pair out, R prime, U prime, R prime, then D prime, and then you do sort of an RU R prime to sort of solve this block, and then here you can do D, and instead of doing an R2, you would cancel into the sort of back anti-soon, so like that. And so, there we go. Let's try this out a little faster, and then full speed will look something like this. Here's the next case. You have this full bar here, and this is pretty easy to recognize because you just have these two edges needing to be swapped. It's sort of like this opposite swap here that needs to be done. So if you have that, you do a U2, and the alg goes like this. And believe it or not, this alg is actually really easy to memorize. Essentially, after doing a U2, you do R prime, U prime, R to kind of take out this pair, and then you cancel into a J perm, and then you just insert that pair back. And so faster would look like this. Here's the next case. Once again, you do have an opposite swap of edges here, except rather than it being horizontal, it's vertical. You can also recognize it with these sort of bars, kind of, also vertical facing, like so. And and the alg here, you start with the U2 and it goes like this. I'm not entirely sure how to break it down, but I think the alg is really short, so I don't think it's too difficult to memorize anyway. So yeah, here it is just one more time. It's also up on the screen if you didn't already know. And here it is a bit faster. So this next case is somewhat complicated just because recognizing it you might get it mixed up with the next case that I'll be showing you. So here it is. Essentially, you have this sort of O-perm pattern, where essentially each edge needs to go kind of one spot. It's one spot away from being solved, sort of. And in this particular case, you would want to look at the front edge. It's a red edge, right? And then you want to look at this sticker and this sticker, these corner stickers. And you want to see which corner sticker matches with this red. And so in this case, it's on the right. And so this edge would have to go to the right. Or essentially, it's sort of like a counterclockwise cycle. It would have to do sort of a U prime to be solved. If you have like a U2 angle, you have to be careful. Once again, try not to get mixed up by this part of the cube. You really want to just look at this corner sticker, if that makes sense. And so, essentially, if you have this sort of counterclockwise cycle of edges, you could also think of it as a clockwise cycle of corners. You can see how this blue, red, yellow corner, it has to go in between the blue and red edges. So it sort of goes to the right, or to the left, sorry. It's sort of a clockwise cycle. So either way, once you have it recognized, it goes like this. So breaking it down, you have a back antisyn, which is pretty easy. And then you have this ZBLL. Chances are you don't know it, but essentially, it's just F inverse XE F prime canceling into this OLL. And this OLL, if you don't know it, it would go more like this. So essentially, doing it slowly, you do FUR, and you sort of insert this pair down here. And then you do a U, and then finish like that. Hopefully that made sense. But yeah, here's the algo a bit faster. This is the case that's really similar to the last one and can get mixed up pretty easily. But here it is. Essentially, yeah, once again, you would look at this front edge. In this case, it's red. And you would look at these corner stickers, this one and this one. And you want to look for the corner sticker that matches this edge piece. And so in this case, this is the red piece. It's on the left side, and so this edge would have to go sort of to the left. It's sort of this clockwise cycle of edges. You could also think of it as a counterclockwise cycle of corners. If you look at this green, orange, yellow corner, and you look for the green and orange edges, which are right here, this would sort of go this way, to the right, or counterclockwise. And so once you've established that, here is the alg. So it's actually just the inverse of the last case. So if you remember this ZBLL, which goes like this, if you remember that from the last case, it's just the inverse of that, which would look something like this. And I guess to help you memorize it, the way you would do it is you start with an F, you would insert this pair, and you do a U prime. You do an RU to R prime to sort of kick this unoriented edge down here, if that makes sense, like this, and then you just solve F2L. So yeah, I think if you understand that, you start with an F, insert this pair, kick this unoriented edge down here, and then you solve F2L. That's how you'd memorize it probably, and then you just do this back soon. And so here it is a bit faster. Here's the next case. Essentially, for these final four cases, you don't really have any bars, and essentially to recognize them, you just want to look for this H-perm pattern. So you can see here how it would look a lot like an H-perm. Let me set this up on my third cube. You can really see how there's a really strong resemblance to an H-perm here. And so that's the kind of thing you want to look for these next four cases. And so in this case, the H-perm pattern is sort of on the front right of the cube, right here, right? And so yeah, if the H-perm pattern is on the front right, this is the alg you do. And so let's set that up. Essentially, you start with the commutator that takes this corner out, RDR prime, to sort of bring this corner up, U prime, and then you undo those first three moves. And so yeah, that sort of kicks this corner out. Then you do a U prime, you take this edge out of its spot, and then you have this F2L pair, which you'd solve like this. See, it sounds pretty complicated, but if you just sort of get familiar with how the pairs are being, how like the pieces of the pair are sort of being moved around, it will get a bit easier. And so, let's set this up. Here it is one more time. And then here's the alg a bit faster. Here's the next case. This one might be a bit harder to recognize. But yeah, once again, you don't have any bars. And the H-prime pattern is sort of on the back left. The resemblance of the H-prime is a little more faint. It's less obvious. But yeah, you can see once again how the H-prime is sort of there. But yeah, what's important to note is that it's on the back left. Rather than the front right, it's on the back left. And so here the alg I do would go something like this. And so let's set that up. Essentially, you take out this pair, you do an RU prime R prime, and then you sort of insert this pair with R prime F2 R F2, which kicks out this pair, but you just insert that back. So yeah, hopefully that made sense. Here's the alg a bit faster. Ooh, that was a bit locky. Let's try that one more time. There we go. Here's the next case. So yeah, once again, no bars, and you want to look for this H-prime pattern. And in this case, the H-prime, this one's pretty easy to recognize. It's on the front left. So, here's the resemblance here. I don't know why I said here twice, but yeah. Once again, you see this H-prime resemblance, and yeah, it's important to note that it's on the front left here. And yeah, here's the alg. Let's see. Setting that up, here it is. You start with an F, and then you do a U prime. You take out this back pair with R prime B2R, and then you insert this pair back, and then you have this sort of winter variation. If you don't know it, it's essentially just inserting but canceling into this back anti-soon, and so it would look something like this. So let's set that up. Once again, F U prime, take out this back pair, reinsert that first pair, and then winter variation. Here it is a bit faster. That was a bit locky. Let's try that one more time. Here is the final case. And so, once again, no bars. And you want to look for the H-prime pattern. Here, it's on the back right. And so yeah, I've showed you the cases where it's on the front right, back left, front left. And now this one is the back right, and so it's sort of the four possible combinations of H-prime patterns, sort of. And so yeah, here it is on the back right. The resemblance, it's there. It's not as obvious, but you can sort of see it. And here's the alg. Okay, let's set it up, break it down. It's actually pretty easy. So you start with sort of breaking up this pair. Do a U, you do a double sexy, and then you have this sort of commutator. So if you know how commutators work, this might be pretty easy, but if not, you want to insert this corner up here with R prime D prime R, you do a U prime, and then you undo those first three moves, so R prime D R instead. Let's try that one more time. So yeah, you take out this pair, double sexy, and then this commutator. Here it is a bit faster. That wraps it up for my third video covering each subset of ZBLL. These algs might have been a bit trickier than the last two videos, but hopefully you still enjoyed this video nonetheless. And so yeah, thanks for watching.